What did your friend do that accidentally turned you on? Decide to randomly put their legs on your lap to sleep while in a car. I always went by an abbreviation of my name. He was the only person to always use my full name. Don't know why. But always made me weak. I was making coffee in my Aeropress for us and pressing slowly on the top of it like you're supposed to, when she shouldered me over a little and leaned on my hand to push it down faster. It was cute as FCK and I'll never forget it. I was off from college for about a week. I came back and a friend of mine who I hung out with every day ran up and hugged me. But as she hugged me she jumped and wrapped her legs around me and we were just looking at each other. Should have just went for it but alas. I only realized after the fact months later. If I could go back in time I'd punch myself in the balls. Damn poor girl. When I was a junior, I grew my hair out and had it cut to a 10-tail. I'm sitting in class one day and my classmate behind me starts gently running her fingers through it. I melted into my chair. When she put her hands on the back of her neck while leaning on the table and her eyes never left yours while listening to you. Instant turn on. Was colder out than I expected and I didn't have a jacket. Wrapped his arms around me from behind. A girl I became friends with on a school trip in high school fell asleep on my shoulders on the ride back. I'm 28 and I'm still coasting on that memory. Have this friend of mine. One day at home while we were drinking with some other friends she started singing. At that moment I looked at her and didn't just see my friend. I saw a very attractive young woman. I had a friend lick my face as a joke because she was one of those girls that thought they were quirky or different for acting like a weirdo or something. It was like freshman year of high school Ike. It was definitely strange as hell. But Jesus Christ did she awaken something in me. I wasn't even particularly attracted to her. I was sitting shotgun. And he was messing with me in the chair behind me. Stuff like grabbing my shoulders. Pinning me to the seat by shortening the seat belt. Stroking my hair. I was beet red but I didn't tell him to stop. We're dating now. He's the sweetest person I've ever dated. Was very cavalier about getting changed in front of me. Pet my head. I'm sensitive up there. Edit. Guys I don't have a dick so no. Guys I found my dog who stole my phone. Choked me playfully. Now Christian. Remember Jesus. Not a friend per se but a random stranger. I was checking out at a drugstore. Gave my phone number for the reward system and immediately we started chatting about where we were from. Turns out we grew about 40 miles or so from each other and discussed what it's like being so far from home. When she handed me my change back. There was this one incident where me and this pretty girl went out for a long drive. We drank a bit and on the return she was tired and put her head on my lap while I was driving. Pretty sure she felt my dick. That move is called a scouting mission. Didn't douche tea. But we were rock climbing and the rope was too tight so he helped me untie it so he got close enough for me to catch his smell and he actually smelled so good. Instant turn on. Might seem weird. But it is what it is. Not really a friend. But my first boyfriend when I was still finding out how attraction works. Pulled the collar of his shirt and leaned his head to the other side because he wanted to scratch his neck. IDK. Whisper in my ear. Omelette du fromage. The last guy I had a crush on, he was my boss. He was walking and folding his sleeves the same time and I was looking at him because it was such a simple thing. But damn I couldn't work the entire day. I had to call a friend to calm down. Lol. Great. Now the crush has resurrected. She was pulling me like aggressively but playfully. There came this weird comfort I had never felt even from my parents. We were both drunk at a friend's house party. And I playfully pulled her hair to get her attention. She gasped. And then gave a happy little moan. What made it hotter was the way she gripped the seat of her chair with both hands. And encouraged me to do it again. And so I ended up playing with her hair all night. I still think about her gorgeous bliss-filled face. In high school, a girl I hung out with changed clothes in front of me on the basis that, well, you've seen me in a bikini so whatever, and I was like, yup. She sat on my lap, sang Hey There Delilah, and every time she was with her friends and I rolled up, they all stood there in silence and watched us talk. Then I got cancer. Never returned to 6th form and get into uni 4 years later. The same university she just enrolled in to do her masters. Played PRN in their laptop. We were 6 guys watching a gangbang. It was really weird. Are you seriously watching PRN by yourself? Didn't try to take advantage of my drunkenness when I was clearly signaling for a kiss. Not getting a kiss back made me appreciate that friend a lot indeed. Not very subtle, but she spontaneously pulled her pants down to tan her legs while we were chilling outside. When she suggested doing it, I was like, oh sure, assuming she had shorts on underneath. Nope. Victoria's Secret panties. I laughed and said, dude, we're outside, but in truth, God, I was turned the hell on. She wasn't the brightest friend, but that's what made hanging out with her so fun. Mayo, I miss pre-COVID times. Thanks again for reminding me how dull my life is. Sat on my lap and was shifting around. For reference, I'm a girl and it's making me wonder if I'm actually bisexual, haha. My high school crush was sitting on a table during class and pulled me close to her and wrapped her legs around my waist to not let me leave. She was in cross country, so her legs had some decent power on them. Right after, she grabbed my arm and gently bit my forearm. Little did I know, she awakened 2 new things in me. Every day one horny question appears and new and somehow gets into hot. Mayo. She made out with my wife. Heterosexual male here. Male friend of mine was responding to a question another friend asked and my eyes met with his. He gave me a quick wink, which was never a thing he did, and it caught me so off guard. I later caught myself giggling and swooning at the move. Your Be Curious awakening. Former co-worker on base, close to 18 years ago, had been trying for an entire year to get in better shape. She had always been pretty but just wasn't happy with what a mirror showed her. A year of swimming, running, and lightweight training later, and holy shit. I was talking to her and she stretched, arms above her head, and her sweater lifted up to her ribcage, showing all that glorious tummy real estate down to the hip bones. Apologies, Mum, but I may have had many impure thoughts about said tummy real estate since. Side note, we were very not interested in each other romantically, so no. This wasn't a sending messages kind of gesture. Damn. Have had several female friends bite me in a playful manner. Put her hand on my upper thigh and as her fingers wrapped around, I got hard enough that it touched her hand. She looked at me with a bit of surprise in her eyes and then she winked. I remember a girl classmate friend liking the smell of my deodorant and just grabbing onto my arm and then proceed to walk beside me. I was once speaking to this customer and I couldn't understand her because of her thick Russian accent. So my co-worker stepped in and started speaking fluent Russian, and I swear it was the hottest thing ever. I have a thing for accents. FCK. Tripped over a rock and accidentally jerked me off to completion. He's just comfortable with himself, really. Drive me home late at night. It was not for me, but for a friend of ours. My house just happened to be on the way. I still have the crush up until now. I'm pathetic. I know. Had a friend who got a tattoo on the back of her neck. Decided to kneel down in front of me so I could see it. Never been so happy for willpower in my life. Last thing I needed was her turning around to find a tent. Most recently, playfully hitting me with a Slim Jim like it was a whip. I registered sign like yes mom. IDK why she did it, but it was just hard enough that I got wet. Totally forgot I was into that till she did it. One of my friends at work choked me completely unaware it was a turn on. I believe this is a case for HR to look into. Used my shoulders like boob shelves while I was sat playing COD. Needless to say, I jacked off that night. Writing their name on my hand arm. Extra points if they add a little heart. Touch my arm. This was 5 years back in high school. A female friend and I were put in a group together for a science project. We met up after school at her place. Because no one was home and she didn't want to drive over to my place. As I was sitting on my laptop and reading, she scratched my forearm with her nails to get my attention. Man. Her look in her eyes and the scratches. I still remember that. I was in 6th form and all of our friends, male and female, were sat in one of the small rooms. There wasn't enough seats so people were all sat on each other's laps. One of the girls was sat on my lap. This in of itself wasn't very arousing. She was a very quiet girl and just a friend so I didn't think much of it. During one of the group conversations someone started singing so, as you do, we all joined in. Singing and doing a jig. I was bouncing the quiet girl on my knee while we all sang. She leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Can you stop bouncing me on your knee? You're making me really wet." Well, I didn't stop but I also didn't stand up for a good 30 minutes. This is gonna get interesting if it doesn't die new. She put her head on my shoulder while on the bus coming back from a school trip. Especially because we've just met a couple of days before. Unfortunately she lost interest in a few weeks after that so we don't talk anymore. My female friend in school 10 years ago, who was in my clique, decided to adjust her bra in front of me. Cupped her boobs and adjusted them. I was like, oh my god. Don't look at her. I was hanging out with my straight friend who knew I was gay and he jokingly whipped out his dick to FCK with me and I got turned on and told him to put it away. He exists. I was having a drink with an old friend. At a point after a brief pause she just looked at me, smiled and said, "You're very handsome." You know. It got a little quiet. Awkward and we carried on drinking and chatting and soon it was like nothing had happened. But from that moment on I never failed to notice the striking blue of her eyes and my feelings became slightly complicated. We barely speak anymore. We're both married and she has a son. Of course I love my wife with all I have and all I am. But there's always that memory. I've never forgotten it and imagine I never will. He hugged me and just stayed there holding me. I'm a gay guy who doesn't get much physical contact ever. The closeness and affection. Turned herself into a pickle. That's the funniest tea I've ever seen. Friend in college with double D's pulled me in for a hug while I was sitting on the floor working on a project. My arms went around her waist. And she pushed my face right into her chest. He squeezed my thigh and rubbed my arms and it gave me a boner. She took the snapback I was wearing and put it on herself. She dried my motorcycle seat with her sleeve while I was putting my helmet on. A few years ago me and a friend were goofing around, making flower crowns on a grassy knoll. She decides to roll down said knoll. And as she does her shirt rides up and I can see the sun reflecting off that little line of hair that goes down from the belly button. Semicolon. I swear time stopped and all of my blood vessels woke up at once. The sun was shining brighter. The flowers smelled sweeter. It was as if I briefly stepped into a more perfect pocket dimension. She gave me a hug in the front. As opposed to a hug in the back. What mate? My husband and me have this male friend who gives amazing massages. So, I am really turned on by kissing or massaging in the neck area. So, went out for drinks with a group of friends. Bar area was up a narrow winding stairs. Female friend went ahead of me on the stairs. Walking up the steep winding stairs behind her I got a full view up a short pleated skirt at her butt. Thigh gap and little black thong barely covering. Oh man. I don't exactly know how it started. But my friend and I were doing exaggerated moans over VC. We both got turned on it seems as we eventually became boyfriends. I'm 20 now, but a few years ago, roughly 5 or so, I used to hang out with girls far more than men. I get along with females much better than I do with men. Anyways, one of my girlfriends I was walking with grabbed my hand and held onto it for a while. It was one of the sweetest yet one of the most random things that's ever happened to me, besides me being turned on by it in the moment. And before anyone asks, no, we never went out. Although to be honest, I would have loved to go out with her. She was a very pretty girl and I loved her personality. I was also the shy type back then because I had been verbally bullied so much my self-esteem was just destroyed. Not that there was much to begin with, but still. Is this a run-on sentence novelty account? Talk to me. I'm on Reddit. What did you expect? Dot. It was casual day, so that's my justification. Hot. Wearing a bandana. I read wearing a banana. I thought wearing a bandana is more of a contraceptive device. She has a neck tattoo. Never really looked at her in a real way. Once when I was walking behind her, she lifted her hair up to tie it, revealing that tattoo on her neck in a SI way. That was so hot. We walked for maybe 2 minutes more. I kept staring at her neck, her back and her ass the whole time. She looked at me. Both teachers and we were decorating a board outside our staff room. She said something and did a cute face skirt swish. Instantly turned on. Most of my friends from high school were your average aggressively heterosexual teenage boys. Full of testosterone. Playfully fighting each other to show masculinity and dominance or whatever. I'm physically larger than most of them. Add the fact that I've done taekwondo for 10 years. None of them really wanted to try to wrestle me. Until one day, my friend decided to tackle me. Caught me off guard and pinned my arms to the ground while straddling me. I started realizing that maybe I'm not so straight. And that, children, is how I met your father. This guy on the bus to a cross-country meet fell asleep on my lap. I'm a B-male, so this turned me on like a light. Showing cleavage while talking to me for 20 minutes. Got naked and jumped into my bed. Probably just being polite. Showed me his dick. A blowjob. No shit, Sherlock. I feel like this subreddit has turned into a single guy reading these threads with a bottle of lotion next to him. Are you spying on me? He's just f-kin hot. Like. Sir. Those earrings. Those eyes? Absolutely not. Should be illegal. Why is this man so attractive? Bold of you to assume anybody on Reddit has friends. True.